Cause you don't know football. Reek put us together like the Avengers. For the love of the game, this ain't for the pretenders. Used to strap them up, that's why we qualify. So when I tell you you don't know, I won't apologize. It get ugly on the gridiron, and I'm tired of watching all of these analysts misfire. This raw ain't politically correct, but either way you put it, man, we blessed. Tell y'all networks they should get hip to us. Moving on to big things when they pitch to us. A hot take can make you put on the gloves, but at the end of the day, it's all love. So as you gon' bring the stats to the room, or maybe the eye test to the Zoom, just know we appreciate y'all. But cause you don't know football, cause you don't know football, cause you don't know football.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the season premiere of Cuz You Don't Know Football. Y'all, it's been a long time. I missed y'all. I hope y'all missed me too. It's your boy Rick. I'm back in the building. We about to kill the 2026-2027 season, just like we killed the 2025, 2024, 2023, all of them seasons. Okay? Because we back, baby. We back. We got a lot to cover now. All right, y'all. So, first and foremost, we just got through the draft, all right? We're not going to do too much draft stuff today because we looped it up and it'll make sense by the end of the episode why I chose not to do too much draft stuff. But we're definitely going to touch on some stuff. We're definitely going to touch on some stuff. And let's just start from the very beginning. So now this is the very beginning of the year, okay? So this is what I love. I love making people aware of how the year goes based off of what happens at the beginning. This is the rudimentary, the fundamentally sound building blocks of what you're going to see throughout the year. And the reasons why you're going to see them, it's already in place. We just have to watch how things gel. We have to watch injuries because decision making on roster, it's already done. Okay? Think about that. We just started the new season. We already through the whole decision making process of what to fill out in a roster. That's crazy. To me, that's crazy. But like I said, we're gonna talk about some draft stuff. We're still gonna jump ahead to Super Bowl stuff, but you gotta pause on it, you know? You gotta pause on it because it still is very early. But hypothetical stuff, give me a second, it'll make all sense. All right. So, first of all, let me take another sec, because I don't know what's going on in here, but something in here is like, I don't know. The season, the allergies. I don't feel sick, but something's in there. It ain't bacon in there. I tell you that much right now. It ain't bacon in there. All right. So, first point. Why do I start the season? Why do I start the Cuz You Don't Know Football season after the NFL draft? Well, that's because in terms of the offseason schedule, there's some things that I hate about the offseason schedule. And I'm not even gonna lie to you about it. There's two main things that I don't like to talk about that it consumes the whole offseason schedule. The first thing that I hate to talk about, to be real with you, the hypothetical destination facts. So what I mean by that is at the end of the year, all these players become free agents. And when you look on TV, they're telling you where they're going to go. Except 9 times out of 10, they're not going to the places that they're trying to tell you that's where they're going to go. Had they said, this is what I think is going to happen, or this makes a lot of sense if this does happen, I'd be cool with it. But they tell you that they so smart that I'm telling you this is where this player is going. It doesn't ever happen that way, okay? So these hypothetical destination facts, these transactional facts that they try to tell you, I'm not really trying to hear that. I want to know, let's talk about what happens after they get there. Now I can tell you if it was a good move or if a bad move, or would this situation have been a better move or something like that. Anything would be better than um acting like they knew where that person was going to go. And also mock drafts. Ugh. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate mock drafts. Like who nobody in the world knows how the draft is going to lay out. There's not one person in the whole world that knows this is exactly how the draft is going to lay out. And you mean to tell me we're going to have you like so like me, you want me to put 7 rounds of picking where a player's going to go to which team in which order. Every single person is going to be wrong by pick 5. Okay? All of them are going to be wrong by pick 5. So instead of me trying to act like I know where the 211th pick is going to go and who that is, let me also not act like I know who the 21st pick in the NFL draft is going to be too, because nobody knows any of that. Okay, but now that the draft has happened, we can start to have an evaluation on were these good picks, and things of that nature. And to be honest with you, and this is real, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if this isn't too early to have that conversation because you don't know who the busts are going to be. You don't know who's going to overachieve. There's names that you've never even heard of now that are going to be stars in this league, and you've never even heard of them yet. So I still kind of think this is too early, but I'm more cool with the team. This was the needs that they needed. They needed to fill these voids, and they went about the process of attacking them. That's why I like to hold off till after the draft so I can see what moves, what transactions that they got, what free agents the team brought in, what draft picks did they do, what in terms of their needs, did they fill them out? Did they build depth on their roster? You know what I mean? If an injury happens, is are they done now because the injury happened at a certain spot, or did they fill that into you see what I'm saying? There's way more to this than just saying, well, this person from Auburn is going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 6th round of the draft. They don't know. And that just grinds my gears. um, but you know what? I will tell you, um, and you know what? Hold on, let me take a little sip again. Cause I gotta once again, I don't know what this is, but it ain't bacon in there. It's something going on, and it's floating out there. It's floating outside, but it ain't as you see, I got infiltrated. This is hot water, by the way. I don't know if y'all can see the steam, but this is this is just hot water. Just need to get through this for y'all. Okay. Okay. Whew. All right. So so let's talk about some things that teams always do wrong. Or let's talk about some illusions that teams always have every offseason or they fall for 'em. The first illusion is for me is the good enough illusion. So if your team y'all had a void at quarterback last year, like your quarterback play, you're moving on from a quarterback, your quarterback play just wasn't good enough last year. And then you go get a guy who ran their course with a team last year. You're not fixing your quarterback position that way. Okay. Now I know in certain situations you're absolutely right. that has worked out sometimes, and bravo to those times that's happened. But for the 4 times that might have actually worked, and I'm talking Super Bowls here, for the 4 times that might have actually worked, I give you 356 times that it failed. Okay, so getting a quarterback that's good enough, wrong strategy. It's an illusion. You're not going to pitch. You're not going to patch this up and make this work. Another thing, if you're a team and the reason you were a great team, you're a really good team, the reason that you didn't win a Super Bowl, get to the Super Bowl, advance as far as you thought you should have advanced was because you didn't have the pass rush. Your pass rush failed you last year. If you didn't get a top 5 pass rusher, if you just got a guy who isn't a star pass rusher, your pass rush is not just as bad as it was last year, it's now worse. You see, because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Now your pass rush is going to be a problem. And that's usually where teams start to take steps back. So doing good enough at pass rush, no, you need a guy there. You need guys there. You need stop all the other thoughts. You can't patchwork a great pass rusher. You can't patchwork. I can put this out there and you gonna have to double team that or your quarterback gets sacked and you ain't gonna have the time. You can't patchwork. This is gonna disrupt your whole offensive game plan. You can't patchwork it. Patchwork it. You either go get it or it's gone. That's a fact. Okay. So these illusions that these teams have, I don't know where they get this from. I don't know where they thought that that was going to be good enough. And I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. All right. You don't have you all right, so you're making decisions on you got a great quarterback, right? You got a great quarterback. So you're like, I got a certain amount of money. What do we do? What do we do? And you say, I'm going to go get him wide receivers. And I'm not going to go get him offensive linemen. I don't know what this thought process is. I have no idea what you're thinking about at that point. You have to go protect your quarterback. It is far more important to protect your quarterback than get him wide receiver weapons. Wide receiver is actually a position that you can kind of patchwork. You understand? You can kind of figure that out. You can't figure out offensive line. You got to get that right. So for all the teams that decided I got this quarterback and we like him and offensive line is a little shaky, so we're gonna go get wide receivers. You fucked up already. You fucked up already. Okay, the season's over already. You just don't know it. I don't care how great the quarterback is. You know, so we've seen this way too many times. We've seen this movie way too many times to not understand the significance of protecting your quarterback, especially if he's young. All right. All right, let's dive into some draft stuff real quick. Let's just dive into some draft stuff. So because the draft was in fact last week, I thought this draft was a lot better than what was talked about on TV. I thought this draft was very deep with talent. Now, are there going to be a lot of stars? Like this will be a draft where like you're going to see somebody in the 4th or 5th round be a star. You're going to see it, and I'm telling you, you're going to see it. Um, but there's a lot of really good, like the talent discrepancy isn't as wide, in my opinion, with this draft as it is usually in the NFL draft. The bottom isn't even as low as in other drafts. So I think there's a lot of really good players that's going to come out of this draft, to be honest with you. So let me ask y'all a question. Is best player available real or just something they say? I'm asking again. Is best player available a real thing in the terms of draft strategy, or is it just something that they say? So basically, what the question is, if you got a hole at a position, but the best player available is at another position, do you take that player still, even though there's a player that you might want to plug into that position? So I'm the person that feels as though it's everything. Everything is a conversational piece. Everything is a column A, column B thing because in the situation it kind of changes. Like the player, the situation, the real need, all of this is going to change all of that. But if you're going to just put my feet to the fire and say which one is it, I would say best player available is not a real thing. You're always going to fill a need over what the best player available is. Now, where this gets to be a conversation is if you're not evaluating something as a need because you're saying it's good enough. In that scenario, then I think you need to go pick the best player available. Because you're lying to yourself to think that you don't need that too. And a lot of teams will always lie to themselves. Teams love to lie to themselves. And these GMs love to lie to themselves about what their team needs. If you're good at a wide, so what I mean by that, if you have a hole at um at running back, right? And you're like, our guard position was good enough. I mean, it was middle of the pack. It was good enough. But there's a guard there that this makes your offensive line so much better. You go get the guard. Even though it wasn't as big of a need on your roster, you go get the guard. That's getting the best player uh possible. That's getting the best player available. Now, if you got if you got a great quarterback, don't draft a quarterback. A great quarterback in their prime, like you don't draft a quarterback if the best quarterback is there. That would be the wrong thing to do. Okay? You got a great safety, don't draft. If there's another great safety coming up, don't draft him. That would be stupid. Okay, but if there's a relevant conversation, then you go get the best player available. But that's what I'm saying. Like it never falls one for one like that. It's always well. This is we need this a lot more. Like this is more detrimental. This is cool, but it may not even be at a position of need like that. There are positions that are more important than other positions. It may not be at a position of need like that. So it is what it is. That's just my thoughts on it. Okay. So position groups, evaluating position groups. I love this. Now this is what we could talk about. Evaluating position groups in a draft. The the easiest position group to judge is well, I'm gonna say pass rusher. It's the easiest thing to judge. Now, pass rushers are defensive ends and outside linebackers. So on run plays, yes, they do have different assignments. Defensive ends have to set an edge, outside linebackers, to reading guards, seeing where the play is going, making adjustments to strong side, weak side, things of that nature. But on pass plays, they're doing the exact same thing. And the reason why I say it's easiest, if you're not getting a pass rusher like in the top 5 picks, you're getting an okay pass rusher. You're not really getting a predictably great pass rusher. That's on your roster to kind of figure out. That's it. That's in your GM's responsibility to figure out is this guy going to be great or not. But if you have a real conversation, like no cameras, you had a real conversation with GMs about who is a great pass rusher and who is good based upon drafting an off a defensive end and an outside linebacker, they're they would tell you we have to fill a void. So we have to put people in certain places, but but 9 times out of 10 that you can clearly see a great pass rusher is great. And in any draft, they would be great. In any era, they would be great. And more times than not, you're talking about good pass rushers deep in the draft. So for me, I don't want to draft a defensive end late in the first round. If they weren't good enough to go top 5, I need that because after that, after you get that pass rusher, that situation, now you're talking about patchworking guys. You're talking about patchworking situations. You're talking about filling voids or filling depth. You're not talking about top end 15, 18 sacks coming from the guy that you're getting. You see what I'm saying? Like when that's not the same conversation. So the hardest positions to draft. Hold on, give me 1 second. Oh man. All right. The hardest positions to evaluate in the draft. I would put it at a tie between running back and wide receiver. And the reason for that is because I feel like the conversation is the same for them. The discrepancy between great, good, and bad are smaller than in other position groups. Now, that doesn't mean you can't clearly see the difference between a great wide receiver and a bad wide receiver. You can clearly see the difference there. But sometimes there's good, like coming out of college, there's wide receivers that are perceived to be good that are actually going to be great, right? And there's m- more times than not these running backs that are perceived to be great that are actually going to be more or less good. You know, a lot of times when people call these draft picks busts, they were good players. They just weren't what you thought they were going to be. You know, and on the other end of it, there's running backs that you think that we're not even talking about that you like, and that happens every year. There's wide receivers that we're not even talking about. We have not given much thought towards. They're going to be good contributing running backs in the NFL. They're going to be solid running backs in the NFL. So they're perceived to be bad right now. And then there's going to be wide receivers that you think are good that are bad, that are actually really bad, and vice versa for wide receiver and running back. So the conversation for uh, why that's so hard is it's hard to see that. It's hard to see the difference between it. Situations does change that to a degree, but I would say that there's a very big for instance, even in this draft, the number one draft pick or the number one wide receiver when in this draft, when you look at or when you talk to other people or people that do nothing but uh look at college talent and look at it perceived, he was like the fourth best wide receiver to them. I'm talking about my man from Ohio State. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get his name just because he deserves to get his name done or said. Carnell Tate. So Carnell Tate was the number one wide receiver taken, and when you talk to more specialists in terms of evaluating talent, they'll tell you he's not the best wide receiver in this draft, and there's about 4 that are better than him. So how do we get that mixed up? It happens every year, you know? So, I'm the kind of guy I catch up with the draft. Excuse me. I catch up with the talent of college football, um, around draft time and I see who is saying what. And I love hearing real specialists talk about who's really that good. I hear what's on ESPN, I hear what's on FS1, but I love hearing real specialists talk about who this guy is really, what their limitations are. So I get a real feel of that way of it because it's a lot of teams in college football. I don't have time to watch all of them. No. not in real time. Let me just say that. Now, of course, in terms of the hardest positions to evaluate, I could have very easily just said quarterback. Of course. Um, but the reason is I wanted to have more of a conversation, to be honest with you. Is the gap between top tier quarterbacks and mid tier quarterbacks getting smaller or bigger? Is the gap is the gap between top tier quarterbacks and mid tier quarterbacks getting smaller or bigger? I think it's getting bigger. I think it's getting bigger. I think there's okay, depending on who, like there's definitely 3 to 4 elite of the best. And then there's a conversation of like the next three. So you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Josh Allen, you got Matthew Stafford at this point. Some people would say Joe Burrow. I'm one of the people that would say Joe Burrow. But in that conversation with Joe Burrow, in that conversation with Joe Burrow, oh, I'm sorry, and Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Let's start that again. So in the top elite quarterbacks, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Josh Allen, you have Matthew Stafford. You know. Now, next, some people would say Joe Burrow. I would say Joe Burrow. Actually, I think Joe Burrow is a little better than Matthew Stafford, but I get where people start to push him down a little bit. So then you got Joe Burrow, but then with Joe Burrow, I think you have now a guy like Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is in that conversation. I think a guy like Caleb Williams is in that conversation. You know? And then after that, I think every real quarterback is has some goods to him, but also has some real limitations. And the situation predicts what their ceiling will be. So, for instance, somebody like a Sam Darnold, the situation allowed for him to play to his strengths while not really being put in the situation of what his weaknesses are. You know? And I think that, you can have that conversation about Bo Nix. You can have that conversation about Baker Mayfield. You know, um, you can have that conversation about Trevor Lawrence. You can have that conversation about now. Here's a person that people love to boost up that I don't. You got a conversation about Justin Herbert. A lot of people think that Justin Herbert is that guy, and I'm like, he's clearly not. He's never won a playoff game. He's been there twice. He's never won one. No, he's been there 3 times. He's never won one. Always a new reason why he didn't win a playoff game or get to the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, everybody else is like, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had the worst playoffs I've ever seen. That was terrible. So at this point, he's had 1 year that he was great and 2 years where he was like subpar, like, not as good to bad and going in that direction. So, you can't really rely on CJ Stroud. He proved me wrong once. I'd love for him to be able to prove me wrong again, but he's not a good NFL quarterback today. That's he's going to be the reason that they lose, that the Houston Texans lose. CJ Stroud's going to be the reason that's the ceiling. That's been what happened. So it is what it is. So let me ask you a question. What does championship identity really look like in today's NFL? Um, because the NFL has changed a lot. You know what I mean? Um, I think no matter what, though, no matter how the NFL evolves, there's always a certain physicality to a team that has to be present and you can see it. A certain identity to it. Defensively running and hitting. That doesn't mean that you have to cover or be able to take away everybody's wide receiver, but a certain running and hitting, tackling, tackles for loss, imposing a will on it, and I realize I'm not saying like picks, I'm not saying sacks, I'm not saying, but those kind of things definitely happen. I think uh, uh, a Super Bowl team, they don't have to be a predominant running the football team, but they need to be able to control a game, gain back control through their running game. They need to be able to do that. Like a play action, to be able to do play action, hit them with slants, be able to do a lot more routes. Like there's a certain identity. You have to be able to just still distinguish yourself in who you are without be having traditional, this is why this team is great situations. But that's what that looks like to me. So what positions are the most important? Well, to me, that's very easy. That's the easiest question that I have written down in this whole thing. What positions are the easiest to like what positions can you what positions do you have to get right to win a Super Bowl? You have to get quarterback right and you have to get pass rush right. That's at the very top. Don't tell me any different. You have to have quarterback right, you have to have pass rush right. Next, you have to have the offensive line right. That's not the same over the top talent that needs to be there to render someone useless with those positions. Does that make sense? Well, quarterback and pass rush, you got to render somebody useless with that. Offensive line, you can get it to be good enough. Playing together, continuity has a lot to do with a really good offensive line. Not necessarily, not all the time, top end best offensive line talent. Um, yeah, and then from there, I think if you get those things right, I mean, if you have your quarterback, you're protecting your quarterback, you're going to go get the other team's quarterback. A lot of other positions then start to not be as important to be great at. You could be good there. You can't be bad anywhere, but you could be good there, not necessarily great, and still have a really strong Super Bowl run. Cornerback is something is starting to grow on me in terms of the need, but I wouldn't say it's all the way there. I still see where you can win a Super Bowl and not have great cornerbacks. Now, what positions do you not need to be great at? To win a Super Bowl today, I think linebacker, you don't need to be the best at linebacker to win a Super Bowl, which is why, like, for instance, a team that will have like the best um Sam linebacker. In the scheme of things, it doesn't move the needle like, or they have the best will linebacker in the NFL. And they'll be like, well, you're gonna pay him like the best. You're going, you know what I mean? It's a lot there for a position that is like, uh, it's more about at this point, can you cover a tight end? You know? Then are you able to impact the game like a traditional will linebacker can. Call me crazy though. Call me crazy. And I'm only leaning back a little bit on it, but I'm it hasn't shown to be as needed today, which is safety. Safety's not really been something that, or let me say, there's not been great safeties are not winning have not won Super Bowls in a long time. You know, great safeties have not impacted the game like in the early 2000s. That doesn't mean Kyle Hamilton and that doesn't mean Derwin James have not impacted games. I'm just simply saying they probably needed a player somewhere else to help them out. That's kind of how it looked. All right. So like today, right? Early in the season, all right? So we've gone through off-season protocols. We've gone through excuse me, not protocols. We've gone through the free agency period. We've gone through the draft. You look at where a team finished last year, what they have on their roster, what they lost on their roster, the transactions there. Early in the season, I could see possibly 7 teams working themselves into like, all right, that's the conversation of the Super Bowl. Um, we still need to see how these players, the continuity of these players. We got to see what positions that a team needed, did they fill it? Like, just because they drafted somebody in the first round, I mean, if they're a bust and they didn't fill it, it's going to be the same problem. It's going to be a worse problem now. We, so we have a lot to see. We need to see injuries and what goes on with that. But I got about 7 teams that I'll entertain the conversation about them going to the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl. So, but I'll start this with a team that I'm telling you, it's going to shock you, and I'm not entertaining that conversation. The Baltimore Ravens. I'm not entertaining the conversation about them going to the Super Bowl. I don't think they did what they needed to do to get to the Super Bowl. They had a weakness at pass rush. They had a pass rusher in the draft. They chose to pass on him. Their wide receivers are still very bad, you know. Um, yeah, So that's what that is. So Baltimore, not hearing it about them. All right. So let's start. I'm just gonna go through how I'm reading them, how they come up. So we're gonna start in the NFC teams and we'll end up in the AFC teams. Teams that I would entertain a conversation about them going to the Super Bowl winning Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco is still an enigma to me. I still don't quite understand how they were able to have that many injuries last year and still advance in the playoffs. So now they're getting all those injuries back, and now they're getting free agents, and now they're getting draft. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles last year in the playoffs with all those injuries and almost beat, you know what I'm saying? Their division rival was it Seattle in the playoffs too, with all these injuries. Like, I don't, I have to put them in there because if they were able to do that with that, the only other team that I've seen with that many injuries to still advance like that was New England Patriots, and they were cheating at that time. Okay. So the 49ers would put them in there. The Rams, I don't have anything left to say about that. This is their year. This might be their last year with Matthew Stafford to be able to win a Super Bowl, man. But a team that I'm telling you, like when they won their Super Bowl with Aaron Donald, they basically broke down and mortgaged their future to do so. I've never seen a team continue to be in the playoffs year in, year out, and get better as they were in the playoffs with a roster that the future was mortgaged like that. Usually it takes teams like 8, 10 years. It can take a team a decade after winning the Super Bowl, mortgaging their future. It could take them 10 years to get back to the playoffs. They, I've never seen something like this, to be honest with you. There's no teams in the NFC South that I'll entertain that with. The Green Bay Packers, I'll entertain the conversation about them going to the Super Bowl. They also had a lot of injuries going into the playoffs last year. Michael Parsons tore his was it Achilles, ACL? I think it was Achilles, but he tore one of his ligaments. He'll be back. Tucker Kraft, the tight end, he was out for half the year. He'll be back. They getting draft picks, so I entertain it. The Chicago Bears. This might be Caleb Williams' year, to be honest with you. Even with the deficiencies that I can actually see on their roster, this might be their year. The Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, we can say whatever we want to say about them. That roster is too good not to advance. If they don't go deep into the playoffs this year, this would be the last year for Nick Sirianni, I believe. You can't mess this up. The Denver Broncos going to the AFC teams. They're a real Super Bowl contender. Absolutely. One of the best pass rushers, one of the top 3 pass rushers in the NFL. They protect Bo Nix a lot. He got hurt. Had he not gotten hurt last year, we're probably talking about them in the Super Bowl. And then, we'll see about that outcome. But yes, Denver Broncos contender. No to the Chargers and the Chiefs. I don't think this is their year. Justin Herbert, I think, has always created a ceiling for them until he proved me wrong on something. I don't want to hear about it. The Chiefs, I think the Chiefs relied too heavily on what Patrick Mahomes was able to do and didn't build a proper roster, and now they're starting to see that. But I think they need this year to be like a real legit Super Bowl contender. No teams in the AFC South, no Texans, because CJ Stroud, what the fuck was that? Jesus Christ. That was awful. That was awful. And finally, for the Super Bowl contenders, I have the Buffalo Bills. So I know it was a little bit of me saying stuff. I'll say it all again. But the Buffalo Bills, I think they at least put some guys on the defensive line. I had to see how that works out. If they can get if they can get a pass rush, they're going to the Super Bowl. If Buffalo can get a pass, I know everybody's talking about Josh Allen, talking about that offense. They're talking about every other thing. If they can get a pass rush, they're going to the Super Bowl. Okay? So for the teams that I said that you might think are gonna be a real threat to going and winning a Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks are not a threat to me. The Detroit Lions are not a threat to me. Kansas City Chiefs are not a threat to me. The Los Angeles Chargers are not a threat to me. The Houston Texans are not a threat to me. The Baltimore Ravens are not a threat to me. And I'll even throw the Patriots in there too. The Patriots are not a threat to me either. Now, the teams that are a threat to win a Super Bowl, San Francisco 49ers, the Los Angeles Rams, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Denver Broncos, and Buffalo Bills. Those are the teams that they got a chance, Now, everybody, you got to understand, it's so early in the year that all of this is predicted. I mean, it's predictable, but it's really more you got to give stuff time. And we got to see how all this goes about, okay? You got to give it time. But we starting this, you get an episode a week. You get one episode every week. Next week we're gonna start diving into complete offseason. Complete offseason. How should I word that? Did the teams do right in this offseason to build what they needed to do? We're gonna go down division by division, and we're gonna see it. But guys, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up here, man. I had a great time. I'm happy to be back. Next week I should be feeling a lot better. So I'm, pardon this for for right now. But once again, you can catch the full episodes on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Excuse me. You can catch the reels on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can catch the full episodes on Spotify and YouTube. Listen, we all over the place. We making moves. We back for a new season. And I'm back for a whole new year telling you, unfortunately, even though I love you, cuz you don't know football. I'm your boy Reek. And I'm going to see you when I see you. Peace.